and good evening. It's May 7th, 2025, and welcome to another edition of Coffee and Donuts. As you know, we created this section on the Dusty Feet to chat about all kinds of topics. Because many of the folks that I know, they often hear me say, here's some to ponder, some to think about, and we're probably going to need coffee and donuts to talk about it. So let's talk about rear view mirror options. How might they be seen in Scripture? Does that really even matter? Does that actually affect my views of this wonderful collection of scrolls and letters that we call our Bible? So let's grab our coffee and donuts and engage with rear view mirror options on the Dusty Feet. Our hope with the Dusty Feet is to foster discussion and to help build and support communities. If you're not already connected to a community or just want to share and interact, this community has 4 primary ways to interact. 1. TheDustyFeet.com. That's our primary place to find everything. You are always free to comment. 2. Substack. Link is in the description below. It's designed around the written and spoken text. It's a place to connect to ourselves and others. 3. Facebook at The Dusty Feet. These videos and other videos are also available for comment and discussion. 4. And as always, you're welcome to send an email to bob@thedustyfeet.com. These places, they will be moderated and guidelines will be set to ensure healthy, safe discussion. And as always on the Dusty Feet, this is a place where we can safely explore the endless ways of God and the interconnection of His creation. Belief understandings may be challenged, divine misunderstandings may exist, and traditional teachings might falter as we pursue connection, context, and community with God and each other here in an environment of grace and love. Oh, and before we forget, if you do find these kinds of podcasts useful, please click that subscribe button. But those reminders, they just help you. But also, if you think these might be useful to others, please click that like button because it is how YouTube chooses to share these to more people if they wish. Okay, so I read a post on Substack by a contributor. Her name was Leslie Bailey. But this caught my attention. I like things that give me pause, and I thought it was worth passing on, sharing with others. And it's from an unknown author, so Leslie is just passing it on too. But the reference is about Jacob and his wives, Rachel and Leah, right? This article, it didn't have any title. So I called it Rear View Mirror Options. At the end of this episode, I added a bonus section where we get to chat about these sons of Jacob, of Israel, right? Because the story of Jacob is so challenging that we could probably mine it alone for a lifetime. But for now, let's just focus on his wives, Leah and Rachel. So here's the article. Did you know that Jacob was buried with Leah and not Rachel? So not the woman he loved, not the woman he cried for, not the one he labored 14 years to have, was Leah. In Genesis 49, 29 through 31, when Jacob was about to die, he gave clear instruction. Then he charged them, saying to them, I'm to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my ancestors in the cave in the field of Ephraim the Hittite, in the cave of the field at Machpelah, near Mamre, in the land of Canaan, in the field that Abraham bought from Ephraim the Hittite as a burial site. There, Abraham and his wife Sarah were buried. There, Isaac and his wife Rachel, Rebekah were buried, and there I buried Leah. The field and the cave that it is in were purchased from the Hittites. And when Jacob ended his charge to his sons, he drew up his feet into the bed, breathed his last, was gathered to his people. Bury me in the cave where Abraham and Sarah are. Isaac and Rebekah, and where I buried Leah. Pause. Rachel was his passion. Leah was his alignment. Rachel was the love story. Leah was the covenant story. Rachel had his emotions. Leah carried the promise. Rachel was buried on the roadside. That's in Genesis 35:19. I'm going to read the few verses around it because I want to capture this picture. Pause a second. Genesis 35. So we'll start in 16. We'll go through 20. Then they journeyed from Bethel, and when they were still some distance from Ephrath, Rachel was in childbirth. She had hard labor. And she was in her hard labor. The midwife told her, "Do not be afraid, for you now have another son." As her soul was departing, for she was dying, she named him Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. And Rachel died, and she was buried by the way to Ephrath, that is, Bethlehem. And Jacob set up a pillar at her grave. It is the pillar of Rachel's tomb, which is there to this day. So I'll call this a roadside marker, right? Because that should bring more to mind, more to discussion amongst yourselves. These markers are all through Scripture that were there for folks to remember, to tell the story. Keep that in mind. Oh, and by the way, we don't see it today. Back to the article. So, Leah was laid in the ancestral grave of the covenant, the lineage of God's dealings. But here's the mystery. Leah was the rejected one, the one Jacob didn't choose, the one he endured, not desired. But heaven chose her. From Leah came Judah. From Judah came Jesus. Let that settle in your spirit. The woman, rejected by a man, became central to God's redemptive plan. But this is where many people may miss it. We're all trying to be Rachel, seen, desired, celebrated. But God builds legacy through Leah seasons, hidden places, painful processes, quiet obedience. Jacob's final decision was not emotional. It was a spiritual alignment. At the end of his life, he didn't choose love, he chose the covenant. And that's the gospel pattern. God does not build his purposes on human preference. He builds on grace and election. If you feel overlooked, if you feel like a second choice, if life hasn't chosen you first, then hear this clearly. God's choice overrides man's rejection. You may not be preferred by people, but you can be positioned by God. And when God positions a man, history is rewritten. Because in God's hands, rejected become vessels, the unseen become pillars, and the overlooked become of eternal significance. So if you are in your Leah season, you're not losing. You're being written into something bigger. That is from an unknown author and posted from Leslie Bailey on Substack. So there are many points to ponder amongst yourselves. I have a few questions myself about some of what this author writes. I think things differently on a few things, and yet I'm drawn to the ideas this unknown author raises that we might not have pondered before. It's most reassuring that even if we don't live our best lives, even if it isn't seen in the moment, and it may not be seen for many generations to come, but God is in it. We may, at times, view some of these backward glancing choices differently. But I think we do agree that God is all over the story. Seen in the moment or not, but often not seen even soon after, right? But many, many generations after. So these rear view mirrors do show us more than we might be aware. Yeah. I love to ponder backward views, the ones that in the moment of the stories that we read, those could not be seen. So I need to remember to give them grace. And I hope that the folks looking back on us, well, I hope they'll do the same. So where might we see things, in the stories, in the people, these rear view mirror options? That brings me to the bonus part of this episode, the thought of backward views and forward lives. Because I'm not a fan of the classical thought of destiny, right? Yet I can see that things can still, quote unquote, play out that way. But what I'm referring to for our reference, I'm referring actually to the beginning of this chapter, chapter 49 of Genesis, right? I want to talk about the verses before verse 29, verses 1 through 28, right? So our bonus thought to ponder. The blessing of Jacob, of Israel, right, to his sons, the final words to the tribal sons of Israel. We often read, we hear of this characters in Scripture, right? And we see their life choices, and they're recorded and shared for the rest of history to listen to. But have we ever taken any time to listen to this and think about, so are these people living out the blessing of their forefather? As you'll hear, that was many generations before. So are they just reflecting the words? Or are they, some maybe, choosing differently? It's for us to look back on. We might see the same. We might see differently. So I think this is a point to ponder. So here's the blessing. Okay? Starts in Genesis 49, verse 1. Then Jacob called his sons, and he said, "Gather round, that I may tell you what will happen to you in the days to come. Assemble and hear, O sons of Jacob. Listen to Israel, your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the first fruits of my vigor, excelling in rank, excelling in power, unstable as water. You shall no longer excel, because you went up into your father's bed. Then you defiled it. You went up onto my couch. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Weapons of violence are their swords. May I never come into their counsel. May I not be joined to their company. For in their anger they killed men, and at their whim they hamstrung oxen. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. And I will divide them into Jacob, will scatter them in Israel. Judah, your brothers shall praise you. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons shall bow down before you. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He crouches down, he stretches out like a lion, like a lioness. Who dares rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from beneath his feet, until tribute comes to him, and the obedience of the peoples is his. Binding his foal to the vine, his donkey's colt to the choice vine. He washes his garments in wine, his robe in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth whiter than milk. Zebulun, he shall settle at the shore of the sea. He shall be a haven for ships, and his border shall be Sidon. Issachar is a strong donkey, lying down between the sheepfolds. And he saw that a resting place was good, and that the land was pleasant. So he bowed his shoulder to the burden, and became a slave at forced labor. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a snake by the roadside, a viper along the path that bites the horse's heels so that its rider falls backwards. I wait for your salvation, O Lord. Gad shall be raided by raiders, but he shall raid at their heels. Asher's food shall be rich. He shall provide royal delicacies. Naphtali is a doe let loose that bears lovely fawns. Joseph is a fruitful bough by a spring. His branches run over the wall. The archers fiercely attacked him. They shot at him and they pressed him hard. Yet his bow remained taut, and his arms were made agile by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob, by the name of the shepherd, the rock of Israel, by the God of your father who will help you, by the Almighty who will bless you with the blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lies beneath, blessings of the breasts and of the womb, blessings of your father who are stronger than the blessings of the eternal mountains. The bounties of the everlasting hills may they be on the head of Joseph, on the brow of him who was set apart from his brothers. And Benjamin is a ravenous wolf, in the morning devouring the prey, and at evening dividing the spoil. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father said to them when he blessed them, blessing each of them with a suitable blessing. I'm not sure what the family dinner was like after that. I guess if it had gone in any other way, the way it plays in my head anyways, family tensions would have been laid bare, right? We remember, this is not a storybook. Those were real people who lived and passed on their thoughts from this blessing to their generations that followed them. As we've seen in our Outside the Class series, these tensions that we're seeing here, they come into full force at times, okay? But also at times we get to see those who they get to choose another way. So I like that. The decision to choose another way. So with this, I've left us with more than enough thoughts to mull over. So I appreciate folks like Leslie Bailey on Substack for sharing these words, giving us more to ponder. So thanks you're with us tonight on another episode of this Coffee and Donuts, as we've given us more to ponder. Rear view mirror options on the Dusty Feet.